Hello and welcome back to KSP Real Solar System Campaign. This is just gonna be a quick video here because when this video goes online I'm going to be on vacation and somewhere else. Anyway, what I'm doing here is I'm launching a much needed fuel depot and docking array to the space station. And a lack of good proper docking ports is something that's been a bit of a problem for a few episodes at least, but that will hopefully be resolved when I connect this module to the space station. You can also see that I'm not launching this off of the shuttle because this fuel depot, which is fully fueled up, is just too big and too heavy for the shuttle to take, so I had to go back with a conventional rocket. However, it's not quite a conventional rocket, because this is actually just the shuttle stack without the shuttle, except I did swap the main engines. But apart from that, it's the same fuel tank and the same SRBs and so on, and that is something that you can do with a Buran style shuttle. You can just take off the shuttle and launch the stack itself as a separate disposable rocket. Now, launching this wasn't too much of a problem because this particular module has tons and tons of RCS fuel. I mean, it is a fairly big fuel depot, and the RCS engines on this module can just drain fuel from those big tanks, those big orange tanks. What did cause some problems though was that I really should have put some more powerful RCS engines on this, or perhaps a few more of the same ones that I already put on, because this is heavy and it turns like an oil tanker basically. It's just so slow, and I had to use a J2 engine which has limited amounts of ignition, so I had to do a lot of the rendezvous with just the RCS, and it takes several minutes just to change the velocity of this module by its own by a few meters per second. So yeah, I had to do a few orbits to get this right, but once I got close to the station it was surprisingly easy to dock this. I have docked much more difficult modules before in this campaign. And with the fuel depot and docking array attached, the space station is more or less finished now, and because I don't have any more modules in mind to put on this station, so it is now fully capable of receiving and refueling incoming spacecraft, and that is one of the main purposes of the space station. So I guess that means we have to move on to other projects now. Because I only had time to do a quick video here, I decided to go back to one of my side projects, which is the rocket sled powered space plane in this particular case. Now, I did make an entire video on this, and I recommend you watch that if you're more interested in this particular design. But basically this is just a space plane sitting on top of a big SRB, and the idea is that the SRB will kick the space plane up to a reasonable altitude and velocity. Then once the space plane hits a velocity of between Mach 1 and Mach 2, the ramjet engines will kick in. Anyway, this space plane is a bit bigger than the ones I worked with on previous rocket sleds. I had to upsize it to gain some additional delta V. But this actually flies much better than my previous iterations. This has no problems taking off from a flat runway, and you may remember in the previous video I made on these vehicles, I tried launching them off ramps and hills and stuff like that just to get them off the air, and yeah, that's certainly not recommended. But anyway, this flies really nice. This has excellent stability actually, and it really surprised me how well the aerodynamics of this plane works. And you can see here that the SRB is about to run out of fuel now, and we are going to detach that, and the SRB actually is going to glide quite nicely back down, because the SRB has its own wings and control surfaces, and that really helps with the stability and lift on this particular vehicle. You can also see that we are getting up to some decent altitude now. Gonna hit 50 kilometers pretty soon, and at this point the ramjets are really not providing much thrust. You can see there it's just a little over 2 kilonewtons of thrust, so I turn them off, and another option of course is to just let them fire, and eventually they will explode to temperature, though I decided to keep them on this particular space plane, although not sure if that was a mistake or not. You can get a little bit of extra delta V out of the space plane by just shedding that extra weight. Anyway, this has no problems getting up to space altitudes. The question is, can we actually get this to go for orbit? And I did some mental calculations at this point, and figured I would be about 1 kilometer per second short of orbital velocity. Of course, I could have gone for much higher altitudes if I wanted to, far into space actually, by just choosing a steeper launch trajectory. But for this mission I thought it would be best to keep the trajectory rather shallow, to try and get as much delta V out of those ramjets as possible. And they actually have 1500 meters per second left of delta V in them, though that is I'm not sure if it's even possible to get that out of them, although another possibility is that I could load up the main fuel tank with some extra liquid oxygen. The re-entry on the other hand did not go so well. The problem here, as you are going to see right now, is that, yeah, they just couldn't take the heat. The space plane main fuel tank really just burnt up. Now the reason is that I chose the wrong type of fuel tanks for this. There are certain fuel tanks, procedural fuel tanks, that are has extra shielding against temperature, and those of course could survive this, and I have demonstrated that they can on the earlier occasions. But that will be it for this episode of KSP Real Solar System Campaign. I apologize for not putting out more content in this video, but time constraints came in the way. But you can be assured that bigger and longer projects are coming up in the future. We have much to do. We have more planets and moons to explore, and a space station to construct in orbit around the moon. And we'll get back to that, certainly. Anyway, take care and bye.